What will happen to the US tariff now that relief has come from the United Kingdom? Following a letter from US President Donald Trump to President Kumara Dissanayake the day before yesterday, the reciprocal tariff of 44% on goods exported from Sri Lanka to the US has now been reduced to 30%. Deputy Minister of Finance Professor Anil Jayanta Fernando stated today that discussions are ongoing to finalize a trade agreement with the US and further reductions are being explored through continued diplomatic engagement. The new tariff rates are expected to take effect on the 1st of August, as per the official communication from the US President.
Among the 25 countries to which the courtesy letters were sent, Sri Lanka has received the greatest overall relief. Ours was originally 44%. No other country received such relief. For some, the rates have even increased. For example, Brazil's rate was raised from 10 to 50%. So our position, our policy, is to continue the discussions we have maintained in order to strengthen our trade relations. If we do not reach an agreement by the 1st August, the 30% tariff will be enforced. What we are trying to do is to continue the bilateral discussions we have been engaged in and make efforts at the diplomatic level to further reduce this rate. That is our hope.
මේ අනුපාත අඩු කර ගැනීමේ උත්සාහය තමයි අපි රාජතාන්ත්‍රික මට්ටමින් සිදු කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ ගරු නියෝජ්‍ය කතානායකතුමනි.
ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම මේ අඩු කිරීම හොඳයි.
Of course, this reduction is good. I'm not saying that it isn't, but it should be not viewed only as a reduction from 44 to 30%. One must also consider how Sri Lanka has fared compared to other countries that compete with US in exports to the United States. If you look at it that way, Japan has received a 25% rate, Moldova 25%, South Korea 25%, Kazakhstan 25%, India 26%. Since our exports are price sensitive, even a slight change in cost could make us lose the market.
The interpretations presented by the opposition are very contradictory. We've seen cases where some have claimed, despite all efforts, this is all we achieved diplomatically. Others are appreciating the same result. So, there is no consistent view. That is your opinion. But in this global context, this is not something that can be achieved with just phone calls or attending parties. The United States is in contact with all countries around the world regarding this trade policy. The results we achieved, having our rate reduced from 44 to 30%, is due to our excellent diplomatic engagement. That's how we secured the biggest concession. Also, you mentioned India received a 26% rate, but in reality, India has not yet received a courtesy letter. What you referred to is the previously calculated general average rate. The trade ratio difference between exports and imports was 26%. So that figure still stands. Ours was 44%, which we have now reduced to 30%.
මේ පිළිබඳව දැන් alert එකක් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා එක මාධ්‍යායතනකින්. The UK has introduced new trade measures, including liberalized rules of origin for garments, allowing Sri Lankan apparel and other goods to enter the UK market tariff-free, boosting trade and economic growth. British High Commission එකෙන් දැම්ම කියලා තමයි මේ මාධ්‍යායතනෙ දාලා තිබෙන්නේ.
This was published citing the British High Commission. Also, we've seen that some countries have been granted a lower tariff policy by the US than us. But in some of those cases, significant concessions were given to the US in return. For example, some have brought aircraft worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So when something good is achieved, at least if it's of a certain quality, it deserves appreciation. These things happen due to the immense effort of our officials. Likewise, our trade organizations, manufacturing organizations, they too work hard for these matters. So instead of consultancy being negative or saying if we were there, we would have just gone to Trump's house, had a tea and fixed it. Let's not turn this into class-based banter. If these matters can be resolved at a national level, that's a good thing.
මේක ජාතික වශයෙන් කතා කරලා ඉස්න ගන්න ලැබෙනවා නම් හොඳයි.
ඉන්දියාවට වගේ අපිට තරංකාරී
If countries like India, who are our competitors, receive lower tariff rates, it will directly or indirectly affect our entire nation, especially at a time when we are in a very vulnerable economic position. I urge that proper attention be paid to this matter.
This is not a problem between Sri Lanka and the United States. This is part of a general trade policy formulated by the United States with regard to global trade. The percentages you mentioned were determined through individual country negotiations and then applied using a general formula. That formula is based on the trade balance, meaning the difference between exports and imports with each country. It's simple arithmetic. Divide one by the other. So it's not like they randomly decided India gets 26% and Sri Lanka 44%. That's how it came about. This was the status up to the 9th July. While that was in place, countries entered discussions. We were one of the countries that led those discussions. That's why we kept saying we have been engaged in uninterrupted negotiations. As a result of those efforts, 25 countries received courtesy letters out of around 100 countries globally. We are among those 25, and even among them we secured the highest reduction, down from the previously set 44% to 30%. That is what should be appreciated. We are trying to make full use of the current situation, leverage the information correctly and enter into formal agreements. As such, we have 2 to 3 weeks left before the 1st August. Once again, I emphasize reducing this from 44 to 30% is extremely favorable. We are also asking towards reducing it further and preparing to reach a bilateral agreement.
අඩු කරගෙන ද්විපාර්ශ්වික එකඟතාවයකට එන්න කටයුතු සූදානම් කරමින් තියෙනවා.